Friday Night Lights at the Coliseum. We're expecting about 13 people. Rutgers is coming in. And so then see, this is the second week. This is the second week in a row where we are getting a very respected coach. I respect Greg Schiano. He didn't have very much success on the NFL level, but guess who else didn't have very much success on the NFL level?
Nick Saban.
Nick Saban. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm not going to do that. But at one point, Rutgers was undefeated and competing for a national championship a couple of years. That's Greg Schiano. Like, Greg Schiano has put together a very good team. What he has. This is a tough, punch you in the mouth team. This is Utah version, not as good, but talking about playing wise and physical. When you think New Jersey, a New Jersey guy, this is what Greg Schiano's bringing in. These dudes aren't just going to roll over. They're 4-3. They just lost to a team that they should have not lost to. They're going to be pissed off, right? And I don't know if we have the level of pissed off that they're going to come with. This game worries me, man. It really worries me. Like, short week, got to go roll. You got a team that's pissed off, that should have won. I don't know where we go from here. I mean, even if we have the quarterback change, the quarterback doesn't play the other 10 not even the other 10, the other 21 positions. Quarterback doesn't play them. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, I don't know what we get here. I'm looking for the player that's going to show out. It's not going to be any of the stars. Shoot, the quarterback might do his thing. He only has 8 touchdowns on 108 or like 100 something attempts, like very low number, but I don't know what to expect, but I'm worried about the team that's coming into the Coliseum on Friday night.
Yeah, Coach, it's a really interesting game, right? I mean, you've got two teams, both of whom have 3-game losing streaks. They're both coming off games they felt like they shouldn't have lost. Obviously, our catastrophe against Maryland. Rutgers, gives up 35 to a previously 1-5 UCLA team. Made Ethan Garbers look like the Heisman Trophy winner. On Saturday, he was Big Ten Offensive Player of the Week in a phenomenal performance. And it's just a very interesting game of matchups right now, Coach. SC comes in 14.5-point favorite at home. But like you said, short week, deflated. You wonder where the focus, the effort, the tenacity, the spirit is right now. And I think Rutgers comes in a little bit wobbly themselves, having lost 3 straight as well to the likes of Wisconsin, Nebraska, and UCLA. What's interesting here, Coach, is Kyle Monangai is Rutgers' sort of star offensive weapon. They're running back, leading rusher in the Big Ten. So he's 845 yards rushing over 7 games. He's coming in averaging over 120 yards rushing a game. This is a big back, Coach. I mean, this is an incredible sort of center of gravity with Monangai. This is a guy who bounces off of tackles. He's 6 feet, 210 pounds, but this is unbelievable low center of gravity, incredible balance. He just sheds off a tackler. So this guy's very much in that ilk of, he's a little bit smaller and stouter, but he's very much of the ilk of Mullings, of Darius Taylor, of those Michigan and Minnesota backs that wore out USC in the second half of those games. When you look at Rutgers from an offensive perspective in terms of passing game, Kaliak Manis is their quarterback. This guy's probably like the streakiest quarterback in the Big Ten right now. One throw he can make a beautiful deep ball. The next play, like he'll overthrow a check down. I mean, he's wildly inconsistent. You could foresee a scenario where he comes into the Coliseum and throws for 3 touchdowns. You could just as easily see him throw 4 picks on Friday. He's so inconsistent. He doesn't even have the same mechanics play over play. So you've got a quarterback who's a total wild card in terms of his abilities. But what they do have at Rutgers is a very strong wide receiver core, Coach, and they've got a really nice duo. One in Dymere Miller and the other in Ian Strong. These are big receivers. Both those guys kind of lead the team in receiving yards, and both guys, incredible catch radiuses, make a lot of catches in traffic, know how to win one-on-one matchup. So I think this is going to be a really fun matchup between Miller and Strong and that USC secondary. And Kaliak Manis, for his part, he's going to throw a lot of jump balls in this game and just, trust that Miller and Strong can kind of win more individual matchups than they don't. So he's going to throw up a lot of balls. So there's going to be opportunities for picks. There's going to be opportunities for incompletions. There's going to be opportunities for big completions. And then they're going to hand the ball off to Monangai and try and sort of balance it out. In that sense, Coach, Rutgers is kind of a mix between like Maryland and Minnesota. They're kind of a hybrid a little bit. They throw the ball a little bit like Maryland does. Spotty quarterback play the way Maryland has, very inconsistent. But then they also sort of run the ball with power the way Minnesota does. So they're kind of right in between there. And then when you flip it on the other side, Coach, I think Rutgers is really struggling in terms of the defensive line. They're missing their top pass edge rushers. They just could not get a push, and they just could not get any semblance of a pass rush against UCLA, and that's what led UCLA to just throw the ball all over the yard. So, honestly, this would have been a game that I think Miller Moss would have had 350 yards, 4 touchdowns, just because he wouldn't have really been touched very much, given where their pass rush is. They're down to second-string and third-string players. Obviously, the USC offensive line has struggled so much, but this would have been a game where I would have expected it to at least be a draw and perhaps the USC offensive line winning that matchup. And so if you gave Miller Moss enough time, he would have found that quartet of receivers. So in that sense, it might be an interesting game to start Maeva because, he can sort of run around. He's going to have a ton of time. And he can start kind of learning how to read defenses in the Big Ten. So interesting game here, Coach. I think it's going to be higher scoring, actually. It's going to be a little bit similar to that UCLA game. I don't think Rutgers can really sort of stop the SC offense. But I think on the flip side, we'll see what happens, particularly with that USC secondary against these receivers. And then hopefully SC, doesn't fall victim to getting worn down again by a physical running back. So, this thing can go any number of ways when you factor in the emotions, when you factor in the interest level. Really a wild card game here, Coach. But, you got to think at home, you got to think there's some semblance of pride here to end this 3-game losing streak against a team that's equally lost.
They're 14.5-point favorites. SC is at home.
Yep.
Which is a lot.
Yeah.
You get 7, so they're saying a 3 touchdown favorite at home against Maryland. I'm going to ask you this question because you watched the game last week in detail, which is interesting because the score was
35-32. Yeah.
35-32. Greg Schiano was a defensive guy. He's a defensive guy. Is it scheme or is it talent?
Talent. It's talent. They don't have the Jimmies and the Joes defensively, and particularly in that front seven. And they play a lot of man. And the problem when you play man is, when you don't get the pass rush, you're keeping those guys on an island. And I'll tell you, UCLA's got a lot of talented receivers as well. It's not quite SC level, but it's close. And so, I think SC's receivers are going to, have their way with if they're going to continue to play, man-to-man because there's just not enough of a pass rush there. And I think Schiano also if he kind of looks back, I think he made some mistakes in that game, Coach. He went for 2 a couple of times when he didn't have to. He cost his team a couple of points there. He called a timeout at the end of the second quarter when they couldn't really stop anybody. UCLA was kind of content being up 14-10 at the half, 55 seconds to go. They were kind of running out the clock after they got sacked. Schiano calls a timeout, and then UCLA starts peppering the ball all over the place, scores a touchdown before the half. So, he sort of gave away a couple of possessions. He sort of overthought it a little bit. So we'll see how he kind of game manages as well moving forward. But I just don't know if Rutgers is just very depleted right now, Coach, in that front seven. I just don't think they have the horses to put a credible pass rush and put any sort of pressure on SC. And for that reason, I think SC is going to keep being able to score. And even if the defense gives up yards and gives up points, I think the defense is going to find enough stops, enough resistance in the game, more so than I think Rutgers will. And I think SC wins in kind of an open game. It'll be sloppy. It'll be, I think there'll be a lot of big plays. It's not going to be a work of art by any stretch of the imagination, but I think SC gets it done.
I'm worried that it's going to be a Wisconsin victory. So the Wisconsin victory,
it probably will be,
But the score looked like, okay, they went out and took care of business, but in reality, they didn't take care of business. So I'm worried that it's going to be a Wisconsin victory. And the fact that you're saying that is not very good because I do think, I'm just saying, and I could be wrong, I do think Schiano is smart enough, and I do know at times he does get aggressive like he did last week, and he gets a little erratic. But if he hones it in, I think he can strategize better than Lincoln Riley. I think he could put his players in the right situation. I could be wrong, but it's those are things. But like you said, if they don't have the guys up front, right, and they are able to give Miller Moss time, Miller Moss with time, like we saw with Louisville. Miller Moss with time is very destructive.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like he could go to work and he could do his thing. And this goes to my problem again. I'm always going to be calm with changing the quarterback right now. We don't know what Makai is going to do with that much time, and that much time on that level playing against better talent changes a little bit because you think things are open and they're not open, and you're going to make some
exactly. That's why it's not an ideal time. This is sort of a perfect Miller Moss game against Rutgers. To be honest with you, Coach, if I were Lincoln, I'd stick with Miller. Kind of regain his confidence, and then see what you got against Washington. And if he plays well against Washington, you sort of ride it out. And if you take a step back at Washington, then you got the bye to go make the change. This is sort of a weird team to throw Makai in because it requires being a pocket passer and just picking this defense apart in man coverage, which, it'd be one thing if, you're getting overwhelmed with the pass rush. And so that's why you need the athlete to go do some things. But that's not this game. So, I get it in terms of sort of the risk-reward piece from a bigger picture standpoint. But again, as I've said, if it were me personally, I would make the change after the bye, not here, for those reasons. So, Coach, I think it's going to be kind of the game is going to be decided really between Rutgers' receivers and that USC secondary. There's going to be a ton of 50-50 kind of jump balls. And it's going to be one of those things where if Rutgers comes down with it, you get these 20, 25-yard big play, explosive chunk plays. You start playing with tempo. Then you hand it off to Manungai on 1st and 10. He gets to start running downhill, and you really start sequencing yards and points together. If you win those 50-50 balls, then it becomes 2nd and 10. Then you can stack the box, and then you can kind of stuff Manungai, right? So there's sort of a domino effect there. I think that's where the game is going to be won or lost. It's going to come down to Dymere Miller and Ian Strong on the outside for Rutgers against this USC secondary. And the winner of that matchup, and by how much, is ultimately, I think, going to decide the outcome of this game.
Yeah, the thing that just worries me is I just think that Schiano's going to come in. He's going to try to just pound the ball. He's for sure going to pound the ball because he's an NFL guy at heart. So he's like, oh, we could just run it. You know what I mean? Hopefully they stop it. If they stop it, I think that changes a little bit. See, my feelings about this, I don't know. My feelings about this game is kind of like Maryland still. It's just like, I just don't think we can make the stops. And when you don't make the stops, it puts pressure on the offense to go score. And now they're franticking and they're making plays, which we've been seeing for the past couple of weeks. Like, the job of the defense is put the offense in the best situation possible to score, and the defense has not been putting the offense in the best situation possible to score. So it comes down to just the stops. Can they stop the run? Can they stop the one-on-ones? See, the thing is also they're leaving a lot of guys. SC is leaving a lot of guys open in the middle of the field. You know what I mean? And that's my worry too. And that's how those big plays happen. They leave the flats open. So it's like the edges in the middle of the field is wide open, and I don't understand. And
I just don't know, Coach, and I'm totally with you. I just don't know if Kaliak-Manis can kind of hold his nerve enough on the road. There's going to be some mistakes there. There's probably going to be 2 or 3 picks from him just given the way he plays. And I think ultimately that will be the difference. Much in the way the turnovers played such a big role in that Wisconsin game, and then, it becomes this sort of domino effect of momentum. I see things similarly happening. Now, if Rutgers can kind of stay in the game through the first 2.5 quarters and keep it close, and then it becomes a game of Manungai in the fourth, now all of a sudden you're getting PTSD from Michigan and Minnesota, and now you're in trouble. But the question is, can Kaliak-Manis kind of hold his nerve enough to take this game into the fourth quarter? And so far, Coach, the evidence suggests he can't. But you never know in college football. So I think as a result of that, I like SC here to be able to prevail. And it's going to be fascinating who the quarterback's going to be, Coach. I don't know. I think you got to play Makai at some point this season, like we talked about from the risk-reward standpoint. I just don't know if it's this game, but that we'll see what happens. We'll see who rolls out Friday night.
You got a score for me?
Coach, I think ultimately this will be, I think it'll be 38-27 SC.
38-27 SC. Are they going to be up by 14 at the half? If so, then SC's going to lose. That is 100% proven fact. You cannot argue. No, I mean, given what we have, I think we can get a win. I'm gonna go off of your analytics, high scoring. I'm gonna go up there, just in case it falls under.
Sure.
42-28 SC.
Okay. Let's do it.
We'll see. Big day for Makai Lemon. I'm gonna go with that one. Big day for Makai Lemon.
Man. This is the big breakout. He's got the one touchdown. We've seen the flashes at Minnesota. We saw it last week at Maryland. Is this the one he puts it all together? Is this a 100-yard, 2-touchdown game for Makai? Is this his Jacoby Lane game?
You see, this is the shell. The shell's kind of like this in the oyster. We need him to.
There you go.
We needed it completely open. I told you, man. Makai Lemon is a guy. I told you.
Well, let's see it.
Nah, man, I appreciate you. We put a good one together here. Now we got Friday. Come to Coliseum. Not very many people will be watching those because the Dodgers playing the Yankees.
Man, the dream World Series for baseball. Yankees,
at least we get to see one
Dodgers,
before we go.
Absolutely. Yankees, Dodgers, Judge, Ohtani. Baseball's dream has come true. Let's hope the Dodgers bring it home for us. We need this one. Let's bring home the title.
You know what? It was interesting because it was Chauncey and I can't even say his name today.
Amr.
It was Chauncey and Amr. And he was like, Shohei versus Judge. And I was like, Mookie versus Stanton. Freddie versus Soto.
There you go.
Oscar versus Rizzo. And I was like, the Yankees stop right there. I was like, we got Edman. We got Will Smith. I was like, we get kind of deep. So we'll see. I love it. Like I said, I'm happy I get to see one. Like I told my 11-year-old, I was like, you need to watch this and you need to enjoy this because these are the two top names in baseball.
Totally.
Top names forever. So you get to enjoy that one. Too bad I don't have $1,400 to go get the home run speed. Definitely. Man, I appreciate you, man. We put a good one together again. Appreciate all you guys for watching. Appreciate all you guys for listening. Just hang tough. Keep your heads up. The storm is going to pass. The storm will pass. And when it passes, we'll have a bunch of crops and abundance of food to eat on forever. And SC will be back. You guys, it's the Bet Online to Detroit podcast. If you guys want any other more football for LA, go to LAFBnetwork.com. They got the Rams, the Chargers, and the other team across town who's probably celebrating right now. Shout out to Will the Thrill, who's probably on Cloud 9 right now. Fantasy football man, Tahj Decide and Armor Decide, give you all your fantasy needs so you can get it going. We got great articles from Madman and Ryan, and articles from our guy Skinny T on the Rams.
Yes, sir.
And who does the Chargers writing?
Well,
Amanda.
Skinney T, we got Amanda. We got a lot of talent at LA Football Network. So phenomenal writing. Please check it out.
Go check it out. Also go to betonline.ag to get all your up-to-date in sports, odds, stats, all the good things. Betonline.ag, where the game starts. And if you want to get into fantasy and make a little money on fantasy, go to underdogfantasy.com or go to the app, put in promo code USCLAFB, and we could get that thing rolling. Man, we're out of here. Let's get a win. Let's get to 500. We got to get even before we can get on top, right? So let's go ahead and get even. Let's move forward. You guys know what it is. It's Bet Online to the Detroit podcast. We're free. Fight on.